All right, everybody. Hey, guess what? It is Saturday, August 8th, 2020. You can tell that by if you're watching on YouTube, the thing that's right above the call lines open, dial-in number. But the thing is, guys, Ed's got a lot of information, and I just want to get right into it. So, as far as I know, nobody's found democratic democracy in the organic constitution anywhere, so I'm winning. Yeah, Space Ghost.
Yeah, that's true. Because there's nowhere does it say a democratic democracy anywhere. And that's the problem we have with people trying to convince people about what they're not reading or what they are reading. And when they think it's right, trying to convince them it's not right. So, see, that's the point. People don't get it. You know, people just don't get it. So, when it comes to your child support, this is the one thing that comes down to it. It's a contract. So, the state's trying to get you entering a contract with them. So, one of the structures is that I got to go back through and find the information again. I had it all typed up, that must have been like 2 years ago, with mail fraud. Because when they're sending you information through the mail and requesting money through the mail, that's federal extortion, mail extortion. And yes, these laws do apply, and yes, they do work. And so, that's the point when you file your criminal complaint. The only one that could do that is an injured man or woman, and that's under Corpus Delicti. I believe that was Title 18, 3771. And see, that's the one thing that people are not getting when you're putting in your lawful information, is that you have to claim your bloodline. People say, Ed, why? You know, I mean, when that's the whole point. When you start claiming your bloodline, you're claiming liability for you, not the corporation. And so that's the one thing I'll be putting together for another group tonight, that, you know, when you're going out here and, you know, lawyers are supposed to represent the corporation. And the corporation, let me pull it up here. Want to make sure that folks get the comprehension of the corporation, and you do comprehend that judges, police officers are not there to protect you. Even that was thrown out with a new case dealing with Florida. I'm trying to remember the deal, Park Schools. So that was thrown out by the Supreme Court. Police are not there to protect you. So when people tell me, oh, Ed, these people are there to protect you, they're a policy officer, they're revenue collectors. And so that's the one thing. I gotta go here a couple more pages. And then the one thing you gotta remember, that no judges, no matter what they lie to you about, no judges are immune. There is no immunity for any judges. But you have to prove your case beyond a shadow of a doubt when you're going after that. So under 27 CFR 72.11, all right, all crimes are commercial under your birth certificate. And so this is the actual law on your birth certificate. People say, oh, that birth certificate doesn't mean anything. Yes, it does. They're supposed to be giving us the interest and dividends. But when your mother registers you with the state, she's giving you over to the lawyers. And so that's the point with this child support that we're going through. Because all these people are claiming, because they're saying that these children are abandoned. So they're going after claiming abandonment property. And see, that's the whole point. They cannot claim the property because they're not a living man or a woman. The corpus delicti can only do that, living man or woman. So when they start going after this and saying that the legal person, and that's the one thing that people have got to comprehend, the definition of a legal person. Because a legal person does not exist. A legal man does. Person does not exist. And this is the point that people get frustrated. Because when you write, and I talk to people all the time, I keep going on this person stuff, and I keep saying, who's the person? What is a person? They're like, oh, come on, Ed, you know what I mean. And it's like, if you don't start straightening up your language, correcting your language, that's the whole point. We're supposed to be teaching and educating the kids so this way they're not confused. And so when we educate them in the true structure. And that's the other point when it comes to mailing. 18 U.S.C. That's 602 at 1.3 at 2 zone improvement plan. That's zip codes. Zip codes technically are not required, and so you always want to put the zone improvement plan if you don't want to include your zip code, because you don't want to be part of the corporation. Because every time the city tries to do this, they try to put me as a corporation, and I don't want to participate. And that's the one thing that people got to comprehend, that a state official has no constitutional authority to practice as a lawyer, attorney, barrister, advocate, or socialist serves. See, this is the one thing that people don't get. Everybody keeps going, I'm an advocate. You can't take a title of nobility. You're taking a title of nobility, you're saying you're under the Queen of England, the bar. So, and that's the point. People don't have authorization to practice law. It's unauthorization of practice of law. So it's learning what the words mean in these things. It's so important that you comprehend it. Now, I'm going to be posting this stuff up throughout tonight, including with the structure on the citizens. This is the birth certificate structure. Citizens and nationals were declared the enemy. All right, Executive Order 2040. So I'm not a citizen. I'm not a national. I don't use those title and nobility words. And people argue with me on that. Oh, Ed, you don't know, you don't get it, man. Go read the Geneva Convention. Go read the Trading with the Enemy Act. Why do you think they put the 1938 Fair Registration Act in place? I mean, these things have a bearing on all these circumstances of what we're living. And people say, well, we're going to use the term citizen. Well, remember, the 14th Amendment changed it from a large C to a small c, so they incorporated both of them. Stay away from the word citizen. Just lay on lawful bloodline native. 5 or more generations that you can prove. And that is in the paperwork of the 14th Amendment. The 13th Amendment was put into that. And then the 14th Amendment, remember, the 14th Amendment was only passed and voted by the democracy, British government. We didn't have a full government after the 13th Amendment. The South walked out, 1861, the South walked out. And so that put us into a de facto corporation. And so religion loved it. Tax write-off loved it. Tax corporations loved it. So that's the point. And knowing what your GMI utility, how these things apply, your birth certificate. Doesn't matter if it's live, whatever. It's all the same structure. Now, I've had people that say, oh, you can't do this. I went and filed and I registered and owned mine in the state of Oregon. you know, and then came around and flipped out on that when I did that. Because, hey, they gave me a piece of paper. I did a copyright on it. I claimed it. What are they going to say? I don't have a right to claim the paperwork that they gave me? So, and then when it comes down to it, it's GMEIutility.org. Okay, that's where your finances, your Social Security, when you type it in, it comes up how many people are trading on you, your circumstances. This is when they're draining the budgets out or resetting the budgets. This is when they reset the funding. You know, and see the GMI or GMEI utilities was developed in response to the financial crisis in 2008 and 2009. Oh, that's right, what the Democrats did to us back then. Again, what they're doing to us now, today, with the same circumstances. No work, no business, and shutting everything down. So this is the point that we're going through these things, and we're trying to figure out how to solve the problems. But the one thing that you do have to remember when you're writing your paperwork, the banks cannot own property, Title 12. So your bank, your birth certificate is registered to a bank. So the bank can't own you, technically. And so that's why if you don't claim yourself as abandoned, you know, when they abandoned your property, if you don't claim yourself, that's how they have it on abandonment for the state, the bars to pick up the abandoned property throughout the state. This is where people, you know, it's so, to me, I look at it as simple, but I realize that I got to go in more depth and explain this more in detail. Which, you know, and that's the whole point. So with the GMIE utility, you really want to look at the structure and you want to check on your resources. Because when you start going down this path, and you start knowing what's going on, it's like a good friend of mine recommends. Actually, two of them. You know, Freedom of Information Act asks these men and women in the court system. Who gives them authority? And don't get into setting, you know, administrative rules or what I do paperwork. You're putting out a letter that says you're questioning who gives them authority. Could you please explain? You know, you're putting out a letter. You're baiting him. You're getting information from them, so you can keep getting the information so this way you can see whether they're telling the truth or not. But the one thing is you always want to communicate in paper, emails as well. Do not do phone calls. I recommend people do not do phone calls. You know, everything you want a paper trail or at least an email link trail. And anything you post on Facebook by federal law, the United States court system has determined it's public record. So that's why I post a lot of my stuff on Facebook all the time. Public record. So you want to make sure that you can't run and hide. So when it comes down to this utility, and then it goes to the birth certificate bond, and then you're bouncing around back and forth on the structure, and then you want to read the how these things apply. And what I'm going to be doing here tonight is that I'm going to be basically on the YouTube channel. I've got probably, I'll be putting 200 pages probably up on each one. Because this one I'll be putting up too is that you got to realize Title 5. Government, organization, and employees follow under administrative rule. So they have administrative rules they have to follow. You don't have to follow their administrative rules. They try to force you into it and say you have to do this, you have to do that. You know, your point is putting a letter in, or an email, or both, and asking the questions of what, why, and how. You know, I mean, I got another gentleman that got a pretty good speeding ticket. All right, and I gave him a couple suggestions, and so he hasn't done anything. So I guess his court date's coming up in 2 weeks, and he hasn't made a motion, he hasn't done any of the paperwork, and he's like, I'm just going to go in and, you know, I'll just tell him the way it is. And it's like, yep, how many times have I heard that? How many times you guys heard that? See, people don't get this stuff when it comes down to how simple it is, because once you start beating these people with their own administrative rules, they don't want you around. You know, I mean, I'm getting ready. I've got some things that I'm getting ready to do in this county, because I'm going to open up some, you know, some information channels. But the one thing I want you guys to comprehend, that what's going on with the natives. All right. Now, Trump put in Executive Order 2017, giving back the natives the 48 states back. That's very, very important. And this is the one thing that we got to get the forms, and I've got the forms that I got to re-get them and put them out again. But if you're native, they actually have tax-exempt forms, even for the state of Oregon. But you have to fill them out lawfully, not legally, but they try to get you hooked into legal structure so this way they can keep control over you. So it's interesting because I comprehend the way they wrote the paperwork. And so when I read it, it's like I'm not going to be baited into this paperwork, and they do this to a lot of people. And it's sad, you know, that they do this. But, you know, you got to feed the animal, and this is the way you judges will tell you, well, you need to know the law. Well, actually, when a judge tells you that, remember, when a judge tells you that, you know, you can report him for threatening your life. And I'll pull that one up here in a minute. See, and that's the one thing, that these judges don't have all this authority that people think they do, but you have to be having some respect for them. Or I don't have respect for them, I have respect for their office, I guess is the way to do it. And so also too, I'll be putting out tonight in the YouTube channel with Pelosi how she does her smear campaign. But you guys are going to like this. Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats went in for $2.4 billion of Social Security funds to pay for their loss that they couldn't make up for Trump. Because that's what they spent, they claim, going after Trump. And I think that's sort of like ridiculous, because how much were those attorneys being paid an hour? So this is the point how they're utilizing own you. How to own your bloodline. Go ahead.
Oh no, we lost you there for a little bit.
Say that again.
We lost you there for a little bit. You went quiet.
Oh. So, anyhow. But remember, with Social Security, they cannot use Title for money. And so when they do this, if you do write a complaint on it, with the charges, you want to include Title IV if you have kids in that stuff. And you always do that with questions. Okay, yeah, you know, like you could ask the state Secretary of State, Title IV money, and what is it used to, and how is it utilized and spent in the service to the children in the state? See, and then you write these little letters like that, and you're throwing out questions to these people, and you want to get a response back. And that's your whole point, is to get a response back. See, I mean, you don't have to always throw the gasoline on the fire all the time at first. Let's get the response now. I'm getting ready to file in my town on the taxes. I got to finish writing up that because I got 2 projects I got to get done here in the next 48 hours. And then the other one, I want to get the one on the taxes from my city because I want to go and do that, put it on the ballot too. You know, I mean, might as well have some fun. They want to do a democracy, so let's go after taxes on it. So I'm going to do a local measure on property taxes because the Constitution says you don't have to pay it. The state of Oregon says you don't have to pay it, and the administrative rules of the state of Lincoln County says you don't have to pay for it. So, I mean, and these are the ways that we're going to stop this stuff. That's the only way it's going to stop, because if we don't start standing up to this and making sure it stops, we're all going to, you know, there ain't going to be no future. The FEMA camps are already set up, folks. It's a reality. You know, and then the other point that I will be putting up, and anybody who wants, is called the dealing with copyright laws of the United States. Remember, everything of your city, county, and state is copywritten. So the other point is, send an email in to these people or a letter in and ask them for their copyright dates. And could you confirm when this was copyrighted? So you're just asking questions. You're not throwing out and throwing gas on the fire at this point. You're just building up evidence and you're building up information. You know, because when it comes down to when they send you tickets and all this stuff with mail fraud, I mean, it's like I get a water bill sent to me. I'm filing, getting ready to go after them on that because they put in a water bill that we are the tenants of our city. So the city owns us is what the water bill is claiming, because we're a tenant to the city. And I know the average man and woman doesn't have a clue, and I've already had people going, "Oh, Ed, you're making a big deal out. You don't get it." I'm like, they don't get it. They're claiming it, especially on yourself. You know, everybody gets nailed in it. This is how they're getting around it. You know, they throw the cheese out there. They get everybody letting rats go fighting amongst themselves. And so that's what we're doing right now. They've been doing that when they did this whole thing to shut down our food and water systems and all this stuff. I mean, the worst thing that I thought was hilarious was toilet paper. You know, I mean, I really did think that was the most hilarious thing because, I mean, you know, I always thought people, I grew up around people, my elders, you know, they always thought you'd always have, you know, quite a bit stocked ahead of time. You know, you don't sit there and wait to it like these people that go and live by week on this stuff. You gotta make some, you know, some stack, you know, backup. And so that's the one thing that people are not realizing. I mean, that was just a test. We haven't even got through the first of the year. We don't even know what's going to happen in the first of the year. You know, so that's the whole point of standing up on these things. We need to get these questions. So if you got questions, we want to put together a several-page deal of a walkthrough on this. You know? You know, anyhow, so we got to do this, you know. So it's just, we have to do this. So I'm just typing in right now. So, but I mean, this is the point that we have to do this stuff. Now, the utility, if you don't start getting into that utility and saving it, they're shutting it down, folks. See, this is the one thing that you have to realize. This stuff doesn't always stay up. You know, so, I mean, anyhow, I guess we might as well open up the floor. saying that I'm getting this message. So why don't we go ahead and open up the floor?
All participants are unmuted.
About time.
Maybe about time. It's about time you showed up. Where the hell you been hiding out?
I had to do some research.
Oh, so you
don't want to go them after injury. You want to go after them for harm. Damages come from harm, not from injury.
Right.
Okay. And yeah, I had to look up some stuff. I had to check on some things.
Well, go ahead. The floor is yours. Let's go.
Okay, so it's all about licensing, right?
That's what we're talking about. Dealing with child support too. That's licensing, yes.
Okay, so on the GMEI, okay, utility. I don't care what you got. You can type that thing in. It's part of the DTCC and Fidelity Investments or Fidelity Insurance. You'll find all of it on there. Okay, so here's one that I've been wondering about since I've been on a sabbatical. And that is, can you show me your auctioneer, your bankers, your broker, stockbrokers, your contractor, your dealers, or possibly your real estate licenses, please?
That's a good point. Go ahead.
I don't believe they have any. And I've done some research, and guess what? Most of them don't have any.
That's right.
Okay, then the other one is there's two that apply. And the two that apply, you'll have to give me a second. I got to get myself set up here. Okay, and that is to ask them also a couple of questions, as we know to do. And the one that you want to ask, including those there, is, are you an assessment officer or a withholding agent? Because the minute you ask those two questions, you're locking them into whether or not they work for the U.S. Treasury or the IRS.
Yeah, that's a good point. Why don't you repeat that one? That's a damn good point.
Okay, so you want to know if you want, and this is what I figured out, okay? Number one, they're putting us up on an auction block to sell the bonds on the stock market, okay? So, do you have an auctioneer's license? Do you have a banker's license? Do you have a broker's license? Do you have a contractor's license? Because they're putting us under contract, and the contract is actually for performance
right
on something, but what is the performance? Because it's not fully disclosed. The next one is...
It is. That's on your birth certificate insurance one. That goes under William Jefferson Clinton. But go ahead.
So basically, then again, dealer's license. Okay, you're taking my car. Do you have a dealer broker's license? Next one, do you have a real estate license since you're actually using me as land, a mortgage? Okay, and they don't have these
property.
Yep, and then the other one is, are they an assessment officer or a withholding agent? Because that locks them in as to whether or not it's declared to the Bankruptcy Act of 1933 and whether or not they're acting as a Treasury agent or an IRS agent. Or they operate under the OMB, Office of Management and Budget.
Well, don't forget that goes under the 1940 Administration Act.
Well, it's just like the Fair Act being gone. Now you've got what? The Clayton Act and the Smith Act.
The Fair Act got redone.
Did it?
Yep.
Well, this is a good thing.
Redone. That's the bewitching hour.
Sweet.
So, no, they're going to keep a lot of this stuff going because they know if they don't, they're opening up for war. And this is the point that they're waking up to because of like what's going on with the Muslim community right now. The Muslims are getting ready for war. I don't give a shit what any of these idiots are telling you. You know, you got to learn how to read the media between the lines, man. That's the one thing that most people don't have a concept of. But these people are getting ready for war. Now, the other structure, like you guys have been listening to in Portland, Oregon, about them destroying our statues and burning buildings down up here. I mean, this stuff is ridiculous where the cops are standing by and letting it happen. Well, all crimes are commercial, so they can't do anything technically. You know, and I've had people say, well, we go out with our shotguns and stand there. And I said, yeah, I'm willing to do it, but are you willing to stand up there? Can you get at least 25, 30, 50 other people? But I'm not going to be the only one standing up there. I've done that shit before.
Oh, hell, gun sales are going up 130%.
Well, yeah, you saw that in the Senate bill. That it was Senate Bill 6666. That's the pandemic bill.
Yeah, what I want to know is why aren't they taking out Bill Gates? I mean, what is it about these evil people? They got to make Ebola. They got to make these damn COVID-19. You know, that's just
all
evil.
About money, because they got to keep the money the dragon feed. You got to feed that fire the dragon.
It's all about getting rid of people so they can cash in on the credits, because it's not money, it's debt.
Well, yeah, I know that. Well, it's like, I mean, I know people in that industry. Debt is money. That's all I used to hear from senators and congressmen up there. You know, and they, you know, a couple of senators, they ran banks. And they used to get upset about me when I used to talk about certain stuff. I'm like, get off that deal. Let that go.
So if you really want a twister, take your power bill and go to GMEI Utility and type it in the drop-down box and see how many people are attached to you on your power bill.
Actually, that's a good one to print out and send a copy to the fire utility company and ask them how come they're committing extortion.
Well, number one, they changed the contract, which that's the update too. It's not just a lease, agreement, contract, document. It's also an instrument, covenant, and treaty. That would spell LAC-DIC-T, or lack dictatorship for short.
Yeah, but see, they got to prove that contract. That's why you have to put something in writing to butt heads on that contract.
That's easy enough to do because you have a QSIP number. Your QSIP number that's on your birth certificate and the one on your Social Security card should match up.
Yep.
And that's how they get you roped in. You got the number for the birth certificate, you got the Social Security card number, and then you also have the QSIP number.
And remember, all that goes to the Federal Reserve.
Well, it actually goes to the Office of Management and Budget, which has been kind of structured a little bit differently now. But you've actually got to send in your situation to good old Steve Munchen.
Yes, but you have to have it certified, too, when you send it in. You have to have it certified at their system, and so you have to have it done so it's lawfully done.
Well, that depends. You still can have the 3 witnesses if you can't get it notarized. And if you do get it notarized, you can always put down that the notary is just to state that they've read the package, that you're not giving up your status. And then there's a few others that we found while we were on sabbatical. So it's like when you do your signature, I don't care if you call it an autograph, signature, or endorsement. They're looking for endorsement. That's what they're doing. They're looking for that mark. So they're going to use any one of those, and they're going to try to use it against you. This is where the words become very important.
That's a fact. Most people don't get that, how the words are extremely important. That's why when people talk, person, and it's like, if you'll say they talk about it and it makes sense, and I'm like, you guys got to read what the dictionary says.
Okay, so their legal definitions are entity, vessel, person, individual, understanding. They'll use these words to trick you up. They'll ask you, do you live in the state of? Your reply should be no, I live in the area of. And if you stay like in the state of like where I'm at right at the moment, Virginia, you want to say Virginian area or territory. And you got to be careful on the territory one because they'll try to still lock you down on that.
Yeah, I know that one. Last time I had it so simple, I just said, I'm native. Where are you from? 48 states native.
Well, and that's the interesting one. There's also the fact of that when they are playing with you, you need to be very, very careful because nowadays they're catching on to what we're doing, so they're trying to twist things. So, but when it comes to the native situation, nowhere have I found native really in any of the law books.
I sent that to you, and I've sent that to everybody. And that's
So, and then the other one
with the treaty that was done with the British government called the Constitution.
Yeah, but I wonder how much impact the treaties have when the original contract was done under kidnapping, coercion, duress, and
Well,
threat.
that's why the treaties are still the law of this land.
But you see, the treaties came after that contract.
Well, yeah, I know, but I've been on the Navajo station for the last 3 weeks, Navajo Council, and people don't get what's going on with them, you know, and, you know, they're going in and still talking about basically being British servants.
Yeah, no, I listened to Janine Yazzie, and what is his name? Oh, damn it, something, I think it's Gain. Let's Talk Native.
I'm not sure.
So, well, let's think about this. When they came here, what were we? We were natives on this soil, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so in their book, which we call Bibli, okay, in their book, doesn't it say the meek shall inherit the earth?
Mm-hmm.
Well, weren't we the meek before they showed the fuck up and murdered 60 million motherfucking men, women, and children?
Yeah,
and
I
emphasis
know.
on children.
That's the whole point, and that's the point when we're arguing these points. That's why I say just put the stuff in writing, send it in, and that's what I'm doing is I'm burying these guys with stuff. I mean, and if you haven't read what I put together on the bills and the straw man account and the whole circumstances, I got everything that on the bills of the child, how you sign it over the state, the responsibilities, the state administrative codes for Oregon, Florida, Montana, those are in there.
Okay, so let's think about that for a second. So nowadays, what are they doing when they get you a birth certificate? They also include the Social Security number, correct?
Well, that's what they do, but see, technically, and I've got people that are getting this through their head now, that when their kids are born, they're denying the Social Security number because by law, they cannot give a child a Social Security number by law.
Nope, because they're minors.
Social Security number until you're 18 of age.
Well, the age of majority, depending on the state.
Well, yeah, some could be 16. Yeah, it's true. Mississippi, Louisiana, a couple of the southern states, they consider you an adult at 16.
So let's think about that. If you put informant across the top of my mother's area, what have you done?
Mm-hmm.
You have stated I'm a criminal, correct?
Right, you're going to snitch for me.
Okay, where was my fucking trial at? Excuse my French.
Wait a minute. You don't remember the trial of your peers?
No.
You forgot it?
No, I don't remember having a trial when I was a child. And I've looked
Oh
at
yeah,
things.
that was the thing. We don't remember that because we were only 5 years old.
Well, the funny part about it was there was none. And if they slip one in like they're famous for doing here in Virginia, where they put you on a docket and then they don't notify you.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
So they can try and convict you for absentia. Okay. Number one, that's null and void. And number two, okay, anything in documentation does not have the Secretary of State stamp and seal is null and void. Those contracts are not real.
Been there. They tried to take me out. I ran around this state for 9 months. They had a shoot-to-kill order on me, and the cops were hunting me down because everybody I was on the lottery ticket. So.
Well, that's because, do you know how much you're worth at 25 years of age, the age of majority when you're supposed to be able to retain your trust made by somebody else? You would have to put 17 zeros behind it.
You know, but also, too, I got them freaked out because I'm speaking out what's really going on.
Oh, you want to know what's really going on? How much does $1 cost to make?
Right now, it's about $2.64.
3 cents. So, for $1 million of ones cost how much money? 30 grand. So, $5 million worth of money cost how much? 30 grand. $10 million, $20 million, $50 million, $100 million. So, for an investment of $180,000, they'll make $820,000, just shy of $186 million, because people give it value. Now, how much does a check cost?
So anyhow, we want to get back into. I want to get down to this. The main thing is hitting the child support deal. Tonight.
Okay, so child support. There's a thing in the child divorce decree. It's called care and maintenance, and nobody's using it. If you're a parent, you're walking into a courtroom, you need to ask them, where is the care and the maintenance?
Uh-huh. And you can type that in, folks, care and maintenance on the internet. It will come up. So you can write in care and maintenance of your Secretary of State, and you'll be amazed what comes up and you read. Because I got to do that again. Because I got some stuff I'm going to be putting together. I want to be able to get the stuff put together. So putting all this thing out, make it a layout. So we're going to have it set up like 30 things to lay up for your child support to do it, to find out that you never, ever give information out and you never talk to any of these people.
Okay, so back to the Social Security number and the birth certificate. As a child, as the parent, you have the right to use the trust to dismiss the charges.
And we've got those bills. We haven't put them on. I've got to go back and get the forms, because we do have some of the forms to do it.
Okay, so here's the other thing. When you're writing those forms, always cross out the under penalty of perjury part.
Yeah, never put that in anything you write either.
Exactly.
I mean, I know people that, I got to put it in perjury, and I'm like, what are you admitting to a crime that you haven't committed, that you're committing a crime by saying a crime?
Well, on the other one, I got to bust your chops a little bit. You don't want to do a motion. You want to do an affidavit of truth.
Oh, no, you bust my chops, because I don't believe in motions either. Go ahead.
Motion is like, what is that? Wasn't it, who was that? Talking Heads? Rock Lobster? Motion in the ocean.
And remember, emotion. And look at the term motion and ocean. That's what we're coming up, because you get to decide what's going to happen. You don't want them to decide. You want to decide.
Wasn't that the B-52s?
What were you saying?
Wasn't that the B-52s, Chief?
There you go. Thank you, Dean. My boy D-Day. My boy D-Day.
Yeah.
My boy D-Day.
D-Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually the actor that played that was Bruce McGill, my mother's cousin.
Oh.
God rest her soul.
Huh.
So, but the one thing, too, on child support, like I said, you're putting letters and you're asking questions. You know, where does this funding go? How does it do? What's an Article 4 funding do? How does an Article 4 funding work with the states?
Man, if you want to shut them down quick, just ask them, are you denying the trust? Period. end of statement and ask it 3 different times, I guarantee you the judge is going to get up and walk out, or you're going to get escorted out.
Your kid.
No, because that's what they're going against, your trust. Okay, even though it's in all capital letters, they created it for you in a fraudulent, counterfeit way. Okay, but it is yours to use because of House Joint Resolution 192, and you might want to look up, what is it, 1491? I believe it is on HJR 1491. Okay, and then when you get into this, you really got to read the securities, and that's Title 9, and you want to read Title 12, which relates to the banking industry. Okay, anytime, you know, a lot of people don't know it. Now, I've got a book that I've got a couple books that I'm going to be sending to Ed so he can post, and one of them is from a certified CPA who fights in courts. And he tells you, when you went and signed that contract with the bank, you loaned them your credit. Mm-hmm. But you signed a contract stating they could be the trustee over that account. And what they did is they ran down, because you have 90 days to close, they ran down, and if you didn't, they asked you at the end, is there anything else you want? 9 out of 10 people be like, well, yeah, I'd like to have a pool, I'd like to have a roof done. Okay, what you should have done was asked for your credit back at closing. A mortgage, translated from Latin, is death contract. Mortmain is the death hand. That's what they write in. That's why it's in black and white. You're going to propose to do something, I suggest you put it in blue ink or purple ink. And the other one, if you're putting your thumbprint, you're putting anything down for an autograph, your mark, or whatever, okay, understand this or comprehend this, okay, and that is you're proving you are alive. And nowadays, all they're going to do is scan your signature, autograph, endorsement, mark, and put it on another instrument, because they don't even have to produce a paper instrument anymore. They can copy it, put it online, and sell it. And where's your 10% tithing out of that?
That's right. We're all waiting for it.
Well, in reality, if you actually read the entire HJR, House Joint Resolution 192, and you actually get into it, because you also got to get into Title 31 on that. You read Title 31, I believe it's Title 48, 49, 15 U.S.C., 18 U.S.C. has parts of it. But when you read all that and you get it together, in reality, okay, they are supposed to pay for everything, and it was supposed to be an 80-20 split. 80% went to them, and 20% was to cover all of our needs. So let's take a look at that. They bumped it up to 25%. So every year they're allowed to trade you for $2 million a year because you signed with them at that birth certificate. Okay, but you're allowed $500,000 to write off. Now the other one is, when you're using their forms, comprehend this one. Always put what you want in that form, because if you don't, you are not self-governed. You are following their lead. I don't follow nobody's lead. Somebody sends me a piece of paperwork from the OMB, the IRS, or the Treasury, I'm going to read that thing until I'm blind. And you may have to crack out a dictionary, and I suggest you get one before 1926 if you can.
Yeah, well, and also, too, you got to remember that, you know, just for people to know that they have rewritten and changed Oregon Blue Book. And I got to find a copy, because I do have a copy of the Oregon Blue Book of 1909. And as soon as I find it, I'd like to get it up online, because when you read this Blue Book compared to the Blue Book they have today, it really does, it actually it shows you that we are definitely a republic, not a democracy.
So you said that was a Blue Book?
Yeah, Oregon Blue Book.
Geez, that's kind of funny, because, you know, they have a Blue Book in auto manufacturing.
Yes, exactly.
Man, they must be operating without a dealer's license.
Yeah, I would say so.
So that wouldn't be hard to look up. If you look up NADA, National Auto Dealers Association.
Well, I guess that's the other point, because when they register your car, that's the same thing.
Yeah, but you see, you really want to record that with the DOT.
Well, yeah, I know. I've done that with mine. Actually, I filed on mine, and I claimed my my deal, and I have a certified letter on my VIN number.
Yeah, there's only one sad part. We'll have to talk about that. You see, the idea to get out of it. Go ahead.
Go ahead, may I?
Yeah. Now you said that they get us to enter these contracts, but since they haven't fully disclosed everything, isn't there a violation in there somewhere that they're supposed to tell you everything that's in the contract?
Well,
okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
But they'll use the ignorance of the law situation. So on the front side of that contract is the public side. On the back side is the private side. If you didn't write down your conditions, once again, there's that con word, okay, like consent. Flip it around. Sent a con to you. It's a con what? Track. They're tracking you. Okay, so in order to do this, and I've done some really extensive search for the last couple of weeks here, we're not printing our names down correctly. You all are going longitude or latitude. Okay, in order to properly do this, what you really want to do is you want to probably get yourself an embossed stamp. You also can go to the U.S. Postal Service and get yourself a postal setup so you can create your own stamps. When you do that, you want to go from the top left to the bottom right. Now, for all those people that get a little bent out of shape from the book that they use for the major canon for all these laws, unfortunately, it's called the Bible. Get over it, because you're going to need to use it in order to protect yourself. And if you don't have one, I want to give some honors to Mr. V here. And that is, if you don't have one that says 1611 on it and it has a copyright in the front of it, it's probably been plagiarized. Now, the original 1611 has one called in it Wisdom. I suggest everybody can get that online, and you should read the wisdom part for the first and foremost part, because it will clue you in as to exactly what's going on. You know, let's think about this. If you're going to go by that book, 3,000 people stood by, outnumbering 10-1, the Roman guards that staked a man to a cross who was innocent. Pontius Pilate, bared false witness, lied, and condemned a man to death, to murder.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're going to do to you. And if you don't believe me, also look up Pocahontas and Powhatan. Pocahontas was kidnapped, held for ransom. They threw materialistic things in front of her. And Powhatan was forced to write a contract to give up the soil of Turtle Island, which is known as the United States of America. So that contract was null and void from the beginning. But have you ever seen any government official honor a lease, agreement, contract, document, endorsement, covenant, or treaty? Because I have yet to see an honest one. And in that same book called the Bible, it says, all men lie. It also states in that book, do not associate yourself with publicans, because they think they are superior-minded to you. They do not believe in equality.
That's why voting is a fraud, because the 17th Amendment was passed so that way, we can keep fighting ourselves after the Civil War, because now we have a right to terrorize each other by voting. So this way we can keep fighting, but we don't have to kill each other in the street. We fight each other with the mental and the torment and all the other BS.
Well, the biggest piece of paperwork you should probably check out is called expatriation. Expatriate. Yeah. And the reason being is because the night before they passed the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, they put in a clause called expatriation. And if you don't believe it, take a look. Go into any courtroom, go into any church. You're going to find a gold fringe flag. That's the church of the government. They are going by martial rule. Okay, and since we're on a COVID lockdown, it's actually more or less martial law.
It is.
And with that, they're going against the Labor Code and the Geneva Convention and the United Nations templates, including some of the Red Cross.
Yeah, what gets to me is that people got to realize the Red Cross is owned by the Parliament. Red Cross is not even American.
Well, what I'd like to know is who has the right to claim the St. Germain's Trust?
Well, I know that. I mean, but that's a debate going on for, shit, a couple hundred years now.
Really? So somebody should probably have the ancient blood, right?
Well, that's the only way it can be proven by ancient blood. That's why, people go, oh, I'm going to go to 1, 2, 3 and give my blood to these people, and people don't realize they're tracking you. They want more than just your blood. Okay, you give them that, you give them authority, because when you sign that piece of paper, you just signed your contract to them saying that they own you.
Well, there's a difference on that. You can also contract so you own yourself, and they are your servants. That's where the expatriation comes in.
Oh, yeah.
The age of majority comes in. The status comes in. And ironically, everybody thinks you got to take those forms and send them in. Try just sending them a letter and saying you don't want their crap anymore, but you want the trust that they made for you, that they did fraudulently, unlawfully, and illegally.
Without your consent.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to get into words, there's what's known as traitors, and then there's what's known as traitors. Now, sometimes people say them pretty quick, and they kind of sound the same, but they're not spelled the same. One's Tarders, the other one's Traitors, and the latter seems to be what we're dealing with. But, I wonder about the British situation right now because they don't have a crown on their gates anymore.
Yeah, I noticed that. Not only that, the Queen moved to Windsor. So that's another interesting thing. Now, what's going on now with that? Now, is Andrew going to go in, or is Charles going to go in? Or is that now becoming abandoned property, or is that going to the grandkids?
Well, my thought process on it all is it doesn't belong to none of them. Whoever's got the actual...
I know that, and the other point, none of them have a right because they're all from Germany anyway. They're not even from England.
Well, that's exactly what Saxon stands for.
Mm-hmm.
Saxon is a derivative of German descent. That's why we go by the Anglo-Saxon year, not the original tribal year or the Hebrew year, which was also tribes back then.
That's right.
So, yeah, I might have to throw my hat in the ring on that St. Germain's Trust.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point, bringing this stuff out. Go ahead.
That would claim the 710 tons of gold, and what is it, the 2,000 tons of silver that are in the Philippines being held.
Right.
Because
and that's under an interest-bearing contract.
Yep.
I mean, and that's what gets to me. These people have done this. It's like Kate Brown, she did a contract with the Chinese in this country trying to give the state of Oregon part of it, 30% to the Chinese. I told everybody this, and people don't get it. I mean, and when people don't realize that when you're going through the election and the recall we're going through again with her again, I mean, this is the 5th recall we're going through with this governor. I mean, this is crazy. And every time that the recall was going in, somehow that she had the Secretary of State raise the numbers.
Lock it in.
Oh, no, we've locked it in, but the Secretary of State raised the numbers for the governor.
You can't do that without authority.
I know that. You can't do it, and the State Attorney General can't, but they all sleep in the same bed. Literally. I mean, you got to remember, we got a bisexual lesbian governor. So, and Dan, her husband, you know, I mean, you got to remember they live in downtown Portland. You know, it's just, you know, it's just interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of funny with that name. Because it's kind of an oxymoron.
Yeah, but her husband's name is Dan Little.
Well, the interesting part of Portland.
Yeah.
Are you near a port?
Yeah, and that's what Portland is a port, coming in port.
Then what you really need to do is send them their stuff back and ask for your passport.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the whole point. Like I said, I'm going to be getting this stuff put up on the 5 weeks that I haven't been posting anything up on the YouTube channel. So I'm just going to go through it all and post it all at one time. So it'll be on all of them. But I do notice that, go ahead.
I posted a few from Derek because Derek's been on fire pretty much lately. He took a little sabbatical himself.
Got it.
And, he's actually put up some really good stuff along with Keith Little and Malika.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, and I just got through sending some stuff to, well, I sent some other stuff to Derek. I sent some stuff to Jose. And it's like, they're asking me questions, and I'm like, didn't you guys know how this thing works with the verse? Here's the numbers. Here, and I emailed them this stuff, and it's like, I guess they're, you know, that's the whole point. They have the administrative rules right there, folks.
Well, did you see what?
Go ahead.
Did you see what Anna put up?
When I probably missed it.
So she actually did her UCC1 paperwork setup, but what she did was she went to pentillions. And really, it's more like godzillions they've made off of us.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other one is when you read her paperwork, she's not a lawyer or a judge in the fact of the admiralty side. She's a land.
That would actually come down to land baron, as some might consider. But see, this is the one thing about this. When we're going to do the paperwork, I'm going to put, like I said, we'll post this up. We got to put together. We'll bet around. I want to be able to come up with probably 2 pages explaining on child support. You think we can bat around that here in the next 24 hours?
It's possible. Like I said, really, if you go under the care and maintenance situation, you shouldn't really have any issues. And the reason I say that is because the state being the ward for you.
Right.
Okay, and what's that short for? Okay, that's short for war den. Okay,
right.
When they come after you, they want to use a war rant.
Right.
Okay, everything leads back to war. What is the normal stating for war? War is hell. Why do you keep bringing hell to my country or my continent or my earth? We need to get rid of all that war crap.
I agree. We need to get rid of that war flag, too.
Yep. Well, that's the other one. If you have a spin on it, you can actually go to the Army Corps of Engineers, and you can ask for a postmaster or post, what is that? What do they call it in the military term? Come on, Ed, help me out here.
Oh, I know this one too, and I can't think of it for some reason. Basically, it's a paymaster, but it's not. I mean.
Nope. Wait a minute. Provost marshal should be in that court.
There we go.
A provost marshal. Okay. When it comes to natives, all right. Listen up, all natives. No sheriff, no county cop, no state cop can come after you. Only a U.S. Marshal. That's all that can come after a native. Period. In a statement.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Chief's been on a little journey here, reviewing some things. That's how I've come up with all these unique little devices here. You know, if they're going to play, let's play. I'm ready.
Well, that's the whole point, you know. We already been playing. The point is that right now we want to make sure that we can just make sure that we're going after them. Like I said, the one thing, too, is do not forget 4506A form. You want
to
go ahead.
What you could do on the private side is write an affidavitable note or letter, do your stamping, okay? And when you put the stamps on it, you want to use a $1 one, and I pretty much am pretty adamant about this. Use 3 $1 ones and cancel them out with your first name, your middle name of the family, and put your last name across the last one on a 45-degree angle. Why? Because Moses, when he went up on the mountain to supposedly talk to Yahweh, Jehovah, Elohim, okay, he went up the left side. But when he came down the mountain, he came down the right side. So you go from the top left-hand corner to the bottom right-hand corner. And all of you have been doing yours straight across a line they provide you for. Do not put your mark or endorsement on the line they offer. Cross it out and put it where you want. And I suggest you actually put it at the top of the page, as in you overstand them.
Good point.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, my sabbatical has taught me quite a few things by not being able to contact people and being here in this nice silence and read things. So,
yeah, I know, but I mean, that's the one thing I've always preached on that one. That's how they always got upset at me in jail. And they would always have to come up to me and go, well, you want to stay here yet? Nope. They go, we got to release you. And then the judge gets pissed off. I get this on videos, man. The judge gets pissed off. You didn't sign what I wanted you to sign. You're going back to jail. And I mean, I went around through this many times. So.
Well, that's because they got you on film now. It's 1,000 words. What's a video camera worth? Millions of words?
Yeah, I know that, but you got to realize they never had fingerprints or anything of me. They didn't know who I was.
Oh, trust me, they know who you are.
No, they didn't. I don't know. I sort of fell off in their system.
Now, if you've been signing paperwork with them recently.
Well, actually the last 2 years, but yeah. Until I had to come public again. When I came public, they freaked out. Because they really knew I knew what the hell I was talking about. And see, that's the one thing. You can't be afraid of these people. But you always have to ask questions. That's the main thing. Send a letter to them. Ask them a question, their opinion. You know, or, you know, we can sit there and if we have to do it, we can send it from a letter from, you know, new.Oregon Trackers. We can send a cover letter out. You know, we can ask questions for the general, anybody wants it. We can, you know, we can ask the questions and have it sent here. We can post it.
Well, someone asked about contracts earlier. So here's the thing. When it comes to contracts, you have to read that fine print. Bring yourself a magnifying glass and your reading glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to read it. If you're not acceptable to it, cross it the hell out. Okay? And then negotiate your own terms. And when you do that, you're going to want to put the LACDICT in there. Lease agreement, contract, document, instrument, covenant, treaty. So you cover all.
I got to make a stamp for that. We already got a big enough stamp. We got a real big stamp that we do. Yeah, we're going to make a little stamp for that one.
Well, I'm just trying to cover all the bases so they don't compromise you.
I'm asking these questions. Because, see, I'm getting ready to go after them because, I mean, I've been going through I ran for office again, and oh boy, I was getting attacked like crazy. You know, I mean, I even had people that were convicted of crimes in the government that we got them convicted, trying to speak against me, and it's like, weren't you convicted? You know, then all of a sudden they drop off, you know. But, you know, it's like they're trying to come after and they're trying to slander me, and that didn't work. Too many people know me. I've been doing this for too many years. They know in the newspapers and stuff. So, like I said, I will send anybody send me your email. I will make sure that you get that, or if you go on to new.Oregon Trackers website, you'll see where you can click on and send your email to me, and I'll get it. But like I said, we want to make sure that people get this information. And I will send you the structure because people don't realize the 1968 treaty, the Laramie Treaty, that was a historical thing. Yes, we know that they haven't honored their words. But people are waking up because they've been putting out their words. The contract, and people are starting to read, oh, it says in the Constitution that Indians are supposed to not pay taxes and they're free. And it's like people are actually starting to read the Constitution.
Yeah, but is that of or the? Of or for?
Say that again?
So there's 4 different versions of that, the Constitution. Not including
well,
your
yeah, I mean, which version you want to go? I mean, we can go out what year you want to start.
Well, the organic, the original.
Okay, that was the original treaty of 1770 with the natives, and then that went through in 1773 or 1778, and that was confirmed in 1789 by the Supreme Court. The first Supreme Court hearing.
Well, once again, they go by one of those con words, the Confederacy or Confederate. So con, fed, rate.
Yep. Well, that's one thing, that Confederacy was the British government fighting, and people didn't get that one. But I'm not supportive of tearing down these statues and documents, and, you know, I mean, that is something that the kids need to know, this real history, instead of the stuff being destroyed.
Well, that's what they're trying to do. That's actually what the Native Nations are trying to do right now.
What, destroy their history?
Yeah, because they're trying to destroy their language. And they want the history to be taught correctly, not this manufactured.
No, I know that, but we need to have this history so it doesn't go back in it, so we know what we learned. Trust me, that's when I was on the phone call the last 2 weeks on this stuff, going back and forth with people. And it's like, you guys got to realize the natives, without the treaty and without the Constitution, remember the Constitution was still written by British officers.
Yeah, but it was actually adapted from the Iroquois Confederate Constitution.
Right, but people don't realize that John Hanson was the first black president in 1863.
Yeah.
You know, and people go, and I have fun with people with that one. You know, oh, Obama, and I'm like, no, you don't know your history. You know.
Well, and then who was Obama's stepdad?
Obama's what?
Stepdad.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest drug dealer in the world, known as Lolo Soetoro.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thinks Escobar was the man. I think you ought to look up Lolo Soetoro. That'll fire your brain cells up.
Well, people don't realize he was an executioner, too.
He was brutal.
But that's the one thing that, you know, a lot of people going through this. You know, a lot of people are not seeing what's going on.
No, they're afraid of the blob.
Afraid of the blob?
Yeah, notice COVID-19.
I've been having so much with this bullshit of COVID-19. It's SARS. I mean,
And they shut down.
But how do you shut down a nation? Fear.
Huh?
Fear. It's basically plague, you know? Oh, the plague is against you again.
But let's take a look at what it really did. How many people are out of work right now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's they underrated it. They said 43 million, but I'm sure it's closer to probably 50 million. Okay, so what did all those 50 million do? They went down to the unemployment office and they put their frickin' signature on a contract.
That opened up for them to go the back door and use their straw man account to use their funding, so they can use the funding to run the state, and these people don't even have a concept of what they signed over. But you signed over the right for them to use your bank account, your funding.
Your trust fund, which really in reality you're the grantor of that trust fund. They are not. Your name is the one that's attached to it, or your calling is attached to it. Because how can a person be a name, or man or woman be a name? You don't have a name, you have a calling. When your mother called you for dinner, she didn't say, "Hey, name, come here."
Well, how do you know? You weren't in my house.
I'm pretty sure you got the same thing I did. "Hey, you."
Yeah, basically.
"Come the fuck here." For the longest time, I thought "come the fuck here" was my last name.
Well, you know, I was like Eddie Murphy with the deal where he takes when he's talking about his mom taking his shoe off and hitting you back in the toilet, and boomerang hitting you back in the head.
Yep.
You know, I mean, this is the point. We've gone through these things. You know, and so we're going through it again, and this is the point. Why are we doing this to the children? And see, this is the point that gets to me. The children are paying for all this, not now, but these kids today, they have no knowledge of what's going on. Right now, to them, it's a free party time. They're not going to school. They have nothing to do. So to them, it's a party time. And they don't even get it. So when the shit really hits the fan, and all of a sudden they're in a FEMA camp. And believe me, they have them. They're set up. They're ready to, they're using them right now. Remember, in Portland, Oregon, they were pulling people off the street and nobody knew what happened to them. You know, so many people got pulled off the street in Portland and nobody has a clue.
Oh, my favorite is the ironic situation with Antifa.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to come in.
Way, did I send you, I got their Antifa handbook.
You know, what are they going to do? They're going to come in and take over, and they're going to act just like the government that they oppose. Hey, okay.
Well, like Black Lives Matter. It's the biggest racist organization as well.
Well, they didn't say anything about that young black man that was just killed not too long ago that had information on pertinent people.
Yeah, I know. That never came up. So that's the one thing that, you know, these things are happen. It's like, I posted tonight because I've been having fun with this group, you know, in my county, you know, in my town. You know, because we have a little poster board in town. And so I posted earlier that the cops don't have authority, and here's the law, here's from the lawyers, and if you don't like that, call the Bar Association. They'll say the same thing because the Bar Association posted it.
Oh, the ironic one is take a look at the state police. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know how to battle the state police. Do they have jurisdiction? Oh, well, we can roam all over the state. Sure, we have jurisdiction. No, they do not.
Not.
Like here in Virginia, their actual territory or their actual area is Henrico County, as in the state capital of Virginia, Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality, they only have the address to the building. So in reality, it's only the compound that the building sits on.
Right.
May I?
Go ahead.
When you follow this state police, it's state trooper. They're troopers, military troopers. They carry a yellow fringe flag on their shoulder.
Yep.
It's called Admiralty Maritime, but flat out, I have the documents. There's Oregon State Troopers. They're troopers, military. That's all.
Yep, and then that leads back to the labor code.
May I?
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So then what about Texas Rangers and the U.S. Marshals?
U.S. Marshals are the only law enforcement agency that exists. Everyone else doesn't. The sheriffs became in existence in the 1870s. That's when this country went from the corporation. So the sheriff was hired so the sheriff could run the region, but if he had a sheriff's department, he has no authority. So the only way the sheriff has any legal or lawful authority if he has no agency. The federal marshals are the ones that are the only law enforcement agency under the Constitution and the treaty.
And when it comes to the Texas Rangers, their territory is Texas.
Yep. And that's it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah. I've been trying to learn about this birth certificate trust and all that. I'm not real far in it yet. Is there a fast and dirty way to get them to pay a court fine off of that account?
First off, you want to ask him about the authority who wrote the ticket. And how come the officer is practicing law? Does he have a law license to practice law?
Well, the other one is that's a summons. Usually
that's true, but I want to make sure this guy comprehends that when you comprehend what the law is, you're asking them to prove the law.
Okay, so let's go back to the biblical situation again. In any lease agreement, contract, document, instrument, covenant, treaty, you have 72 hours to rebut it and return it. And that's what you got to get into your head. The minute they give it to you, and when they say sign here, write down SIGN.
I'm familiar with all that, but I had a long, dragged-out case that lasted a year, and I finally pled out. And the fine is small. I just want to throw one last little jab of what. And I did get the judge to say she's going to put in the paperwork about my property that they kept. But anyway, I was just wondering, this, like I say, even though the fine is small, and of course they want that in 2 weeks, but it's going to take them 6 weeks to release my bond money back.
Yeah, but see, once you agree to the contract, they can do anything they want.
That's because they got to keep it on the records for another 30 days so they can skank you some more.
That's true. Well, actually, it's 90 days.
They've had it for a year. I'm going to ask for the interest on it.
This session is no longer being recorded.
Okay, so status-wise, you can use the actual passport form. And on there, it's going to have national or U.S. citizen. Don't do any of those. You want to check off other. And then you can put down your social security number, okay? Because that's really goes to the account itself. But had you had a passport, it would have paid for everything. So you want to get the passport and the passport card. And then basically you've got to turn everything back over to them. Anything that's a privilege, you want to give it back to them because you have the right, as in R-I-T-E, which is spiritual, not R-I-G-H-T. That's man-made. You are one made from the creator of all things in the universe. And if you really want to get into it, you probably want to look up HJR 192 and that 14.
I've been reading about that.
And the reason being is because they're supposed to pay for all debts. Now, since 1982, there has not been any legal Federal Reserve note. And people don't comprehend that one. They completely destroyed it in 1982. And Ed can send you Coffee Bean Gene, which was from Judge Sheehan out in Maryland. And Coffee Bean Gene got him so mad in the courtroom, he says, I don't care if you're paying damn coffee beans. And that's exactly what he did.
That's exactly what he did. He paid his debt to Montgomery Wards and coffee beans.
Yeah, I heard about a guy paid his tax bill in sheep pellets.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true,
Well,
too.
That's the other thing. When I go down there to pay, I can ask for a true bill and what species can I pay in.
And that's the one thing that people don't get. They're not asking a true bill. They're not asking these questions.
When you do that, make sure you're getting an audio on your phone. You don't need the camera, but you need the audio. If they tell you, no, you can't do this, like recently right now, Walmart's going through a big to-deal, okay? You cannot use cash. You must use a card. I walked in the other day. They said, you can't use cash. I said, sweet. You just denied my payment. Therefore, I get the merchandise for free because it's already paid for. They called the security guard. And the security guard's all like, what's the problem? Then he tried to tell me how I had to pay. I looked at him. I said, absolutely not. You're violating all sorts of real public law. They refuse it. They either have to give you the merchandise or they have to take the legal tender.
In this country, and people going, oh, they're coming to understand it's a shortage. It's not a shortage, folks. They're doing it so you have no barter, you have no change, you have no money, you have nothing to utilize for barter. Why do you think they destroyed food? Why do you think they destroyed the water in a lot of the areas?
Oh, they've been polluting everything for years.
Well, we know that one too.
When you say pay in silver, you talking about the exchange rate? Because if you paid face value silver, you'd be paying a hell of a lot of money.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I would do the exchange rate. That's what I was stating, to the exact amount. Because if you do the exchange, it's at what? It's almost $30 a piece now. Last time I checked, it was like $29.75 or $78. Okay,
I know, and I was such a dummy not to buy a bunch of 14 when I meant to. To write I wanted to at least get 21 to write a silver bond.
Yeah, well, I was one of those stupid guys back in the 70s who didn't go spend, $400 or $500 on gold back then when it was $30 an ounce.
Well, if you want another spin on it, ask them how do you settle the account through HJR 192 and watch them blow up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but HJR all the principles supposedly are still in there, but the bill itself was repealed, to my understanding.
No, it wasn't.
No, it was not. They couldn't repeal the bill. The Democrats tried to do it, but it backfired in their face. And I forgot
I'll have to look at that further then.
You also have to go into Section 9 when it comes to securities and instruments. The reason being is because it states right in there. In fact, I think I have it here. It's, give me a second. Title 18, 246. Does that sound right, Ed?
Yeah.
Yeah, 18, 241, and 242 is damages, right?
Right.
And then you have 1984, 1983, 1984, 1986, and then you have 246. All those are going to be under Title 18. The other one is Title 26 and Title 28 fall in line with those, but I can't remember off the top of my head the numbers. I've got probably gazillions of numbers running through my head when it comes to this stuff.
No, we both, most of us do.
Habitual habits?
Well, at least you're not going be.
If you started reading law as soon as you could read and read every day up until now, you'd only be a little ways into it, not to mention all that they've written while you were reading that stuff.
That's all crazy.
There's over 60 million codes and statutes. But you don't want to go by those. You want to look up the public law. And in fact, I think, what is it, 93-549?
I think, I'm not sure. I don't have that one in front of me right now.
No, I think it's 93-549. And then you also do, what is it, Public Law 102 something, which complements the Public Law 7310, which is from House Joint Resolution 192. And when you go into that, you got Chapter 48, Statute 48, Sections 112, and parts of Section 113.
I don't see how you can rattle all that stuff out of your head like that.
4 decades of studying.
It just becomes second nature.
After you start reading it and after you comprehend it, you get it in your head, it'll lead you to, once you do this, they always have another code section. Okay? And that's the whole idea. They want to keep you under a code. Even your zip code is part of it. Unless you put RFD down, like Mayberry RFD, Rural Free Delivery.
I just use general delivery. Don't deal with all that.
Yeah, but the other one is when you actually do your paperwork, if you start getting into this and you start doing the bonds, you're going to need your zip code, because your 9-digit zip code or 11-digit zip code is actually another account attached to the first 2. That's how they get you. Plus, they want to call it a residency. You're not a resident.
You're not an inhabitant either.
There we go.
That's why I deal with general delivery, so I don't call myself a resident.
Yeah, I've got it on my deal, because on my stuff, anything sent to me is care of.
And then you don't have to put down, you can do, when you do the spin on it, if you don't put it in parentheses, when it comes to the zip code, you can put in the area of, and then put
or near, right?
Yep. And then that's the other one. There's one that I've got posted that I'm probably going to be sending Ed here shortly soon. And we're going to take out 2 parts at the top and 2 parts at the bottom so you can put your own. You want to also look up your family coat of arms.
Yes.
Because when you're writing any kind of those LACD, ICTs, you want your coat of arms on there. And if you're part of any bloodline that can relate to any of the tribes, you want to use that national tribal seal. Because once you're a native, the land becomes the creator's and yours. Now, there's a lot of people talking about land patents, but I've got a little bit of a deal on that one, because when Pocahontas was alive, she saved John Smith. John Smith was given all land patents on this continent, which was illegal and unlawful. Because ironically, I'm the 15th bloodline direct descendant of Powhatan and the 14th bloodline direct descendant of Pocahontas. And I really don't like it when people call fucking Liz Warren Pocahontas or Sitting Bull. That takes a little hit on our people.
Yep. And I comprehend that because I trace his line all my Cherokee Nation going all the way back. So I know about my history, and that's the whole point, knowing who you are, knowing what your standing is. And that's the one thing that most people don't comprehend. You need to know what your standing is.
Well, and then that leads back to your Bible situations, okay? So they want you to come in and kneel and pray. Nowhere did Christ say, come and kneel and pray in front of me. He said, stand and shout it from the mountaintop. And that's exactly what you have to do, is stand and shout it from the mountaintop. The other one is, and this was a spinoff from Keith Little, Derek Gonzalez, Malika, and they said, when you go into court, take that damn birth certificate with you and hold it over your head.
I know, I've done that. I've taken my birth certificate into court and they wanted me to get the hell out. And I mean, the judge yelling at me, what the hell did you bring that in here for? Get the hell out of here. So, been there, done it. You know, so yeah, that's the whole point of knowing what it is. So
and that's the other one. They'll tell you from the court side and from the government side, you cannot settle those accounts. Any account can be settled at any time.
Mm-hmm.
They don't fall for that brouhaha.
Yeah, that's the one thing that people fall for, a lot of BS. So,
well, you know, a lot of people really don't know about the mortgage. I mean, that's why I stated that. You walked in, you signed a piece of paper, okay, and that's the other one. Whenever you go into these things, ask to see the original imprinted alleged contract with your alleged signature, autograph, endorsement, or mark on it, because they will not have it. What they'll tell you is they have a true copy. Actually imprinted. And if you turn it over upside down, there's no roughness to it because you impressed on it to make that endorsement, then it's null and void because they've already destroyed it, or they've got it in a safe and they're copying your name right now and putting it on all sorts of bonds.
That's why you want to put identity theft. That's what I've done. Filed identity theft. Filed on me. And they freak out because I get calls when people try to screw around with my stuff because I don't have credit cards. I don't have a credit rating.
But theoretically you do.
Huh?
Theoretically you do, but they're not doing it under the Fair Credit Report Act.
Well, I get that. I know what you're talking about on that, but they're not doing it. That's why I don't have anything on their side. That way I don't have where they can't try to sit there and say, I used something. I didn't use it. They owe me.
Well, that's the other one you also got to mention. They got two books. You got the debt side and you have the asset side. Yeah, I know, but...
Don't forget the interest and dividends book that they don't want you to know the partying money. Yeah, I've been around the system, man. I know they have the partying money.
That leads back to the CAFR.
Well, that's true. People don't realize, and that's a good one, too, with the CAFR report. Walter Bruin has that really good on his website, the CAFR reports. So if you've never checked out Walter Bruin's site, please take the time and go through his site, bury him, because he does have a lot of information up there. See, it's like the Sundays, if they would have, learned the system, what's going on compared to what the way they were thinking.
Well, you got to get back on history on that one. Walter J. Burien used to be the go-to guy for the government to invest their finances in. And that's how he learned about the CAFRs. Because
right.
they use the CAFRs and they use your instruments from that Social Security number, that QSIP number, and your birth certificate to create money. And here's how it works. When they make a bond, that bond's worth about $2 million per hit. So if you've got 13 charges, they just got $26 million. Now, times that by 10 because the federal government gets it. When you go to the GMEI utility website, if you press on information, you press on the 20-digit number, which leads back to the G20 summit, because that's exactly what it's about, is that 20-digit number. You click on that, it will give you the person that is trading you under an SPC, secured party creditor, okay, which is ironic because in reality, we're all SPCs by their design. They just haven't figured it out. I figured it out, and it's not going to be good for them. So keep an eye on Ed and my sites here shortly soon, because there's going to be some interesting stuff popping up from my end. They wanted to play, and they didn't know who they were playing with.
That's the point, that I've been putting all this stuff out there for some time myself, and now he's got the other part of the puzzle. I got the other part of the puzzle. We've been putting this stuff together, you know, and that's the whole point. Now, when it comes to like child support, asking the question, Article 4 money, ask the question about how Article 4 money is used. Don't let them know who you are, or just send them a letter. How is Article 4 money? I heard about Article 4 money. Could you explain it to me? That's all you need to say. See what happens when you get a letter back.
And do not answer if they ask you if you understand.
Right.
Say nope, but don't comprehend it at all. But comprehension can also get you in a little trouble with them. So
that's right. You just want one letter that they're sending to you, and that, you know, they're trying to get you into something. You know, it depends if you want to get into it, but I don't recommend really getting into it. You just want the first letter of what the circumstances are. That's all you want. So you want to, when you go bear hunting, you got to know how the bear is going to react.
Mine actually likes spam with honey on it. Oh, he had fun up here. There was a few intruders in my driveway. They didn't know I got a 9-foot bear that lives on the property. He's a Kodiak too. He's a cross between a brown and a black.
That's pretty cool. Go ahead. Somebody was speaking up. Go ahead, speaker. I know somebody was speaking up. Okay. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's the one thing that, you know, people got to realize what's going on here. You know, you can't be afraid of the shadow because the shadow already knows.
Well, the easiest way to describe it is the country is broke. In order for them to actually maintain, they need your credit in order to actually produce FERNs, which is Federal Reserve Notes. Okay.
And jobs.
Well, that too. But in reality, they can get you on the job because you're paying yourself on the job if you fill out a W-2 or a W-4 form.
That's right.
You can actually refuse to do that. You do not have to give up your Social Security number in order to prove who you are.
That's a fact, too. I mean, I did that since I was 14 years old. I wouldn't give my SSI number out. I worked as a mechanic, chef, you know, several jobs. Never gave a Social Security number. You know, and I'd get in arguments with the boss. I said, here's what the law is. Sorry, I guess I'm not employed. Oh, no, you're employed, but, you know, we just got to figure this out, Ed. Well.
The other one is you're basically a shareholder in the corporations themselves.
That's your city, county, state, and administrative rules for your, what is that called, Secretary of State.
Well, and then on top of it, it also leads back to the federal government. A lot of people don't comprehend that. The states were not states yet.
They were the federal government is still owned by the British government. Look
theoretically,
up government. It comes up that way, British government.
Okay, but theoretically, I've done some research on that, and I'm wondering about that because he's cut ties.
No, we cut ties, but we have a contract, appointment contract with them, and that came with the Civil War.
Okay,
Because
but
that's how we end up having them employees, the federal employees. That's when they started.
well, that leads back to the original Constitution. It said no judges and no lawyers.
Right, but see, that's where the Civil War came in, and everybody starts going and running with the Civil War instead of knowing what the hell the administrative rules and the laws really are.
Okay, well, I'm going to play words with you. What's de jure rearranged? What's it state?
The what?
When you take de jure and rearrange the letters in it, what's it make it? Juried. Ureed. Now, de facto, rearrange the letters. What do you get? Two-face. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're acting as two-faced individuals in that courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
And we can play words all night. We can play words all night long, brother. I can get down with that.
You know, well, it's like, you know, the question is, like, we asked the military, one of the generals in the military of Oregon, about going to court, and he said it's just so simple. Just don't walk in the court, because the minute you walk in the court, you have no rights.
Well, theoretically, since they think they own you by the birth certificate, the Social Security card, and the QSIP number. Okay.
And by the Military Act.
Right, and then the War Powers Act, the Agriculture Act, and the Bankruptcy Act, all combined, put you basically as a government employee.
Well, see, that's the one thing you brought up, the Agriculture Act, and people don't realize Title 7, 136, Section D says man is an animal. So remember, animals can be sold, trade, and barter.
Yes, but that leads back to those ones that I was talking about earlier. I really like to see your auctioneer, your bankers, your brokers, your contractors, your dealers, and your real estate licenses ASAP. How fast do you think you can get those to me?
Yeah, but we got to put up a questionnaire like that, type it up, set it up so we can put it out and get it up on the website as a questionnaire that way. So that way it helps people to go there and go, hey, never thought about it that way. Let's look at this.
Yeah, that's why I like to play when I play. Because in reality, if they're auctioning their bond off or they're trading your bond, okay, and they don't have any of those licenses, that should knock them right the hell on down and out completely.
Not only that, you have to file on their license that they don't have a license, and you file that through administrative rule, and they get screwed because they don't have it at the time. They can't get it. They're out of business.
Well, and then you got one of the best attorney generals in the office right now, down in the District of Columbia. You get your paperwork sent to William Barr, and then you go to District 8, and then you want to send it to the DOJ.
Yes, there you go. That's exactly. Don't forget, you want to send a copy to Philadelphia. I don't care what anybody says. Philadelphia is the only #1 sounding court in this country.
Well, then you might want to back it up by sending it to the Secret Service. The reason being is the Secret Service is supposed to be the original counterfeit, you know.
Well, see, that's the one thing, is I sent all my work to the FBI and Marshals. You know, and it was funny because this last week I just heard these people going off on the deal on this local deal going, oh, Ed, you know, the FBI, we're going to contact them. We're going to have you trace them all this. And it's like, shit, if anybody ever typed in Ed Johnson, Toledo, Oregon, FBI, you'll see the FBI has been at public meetings dealing with me 3 times, and I was never invited to the meetings. But they were public meetings. They were talking about me. And I wasn't invited. Of course, the media wouldn't write about the truth. Of course, the media here doesn't write anything. They're paid to write.
Well, that's the other one. If everybody actually looks up all the media outlets right now, I don't believe there's one Republican one out there that supports the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they're bought and paid for what?
Yep. Oh, this is going on, you know. And then also, too, I got to get it. I got that smear campaign from Nancy Pelosi.
Well, and then they're horrible people, but is that HORRIBLE or WHOREABLE?
Hard to tell.
Sounds the same, doesn't it?
That's the point you can have fun with. This is too much fun. I have to deal with this tomorrow instead of tonight. But that's the one thing that, asking questions. It's like, and that's the other point. I want to start getting some letters together so we can send them out as the group, So we'll get response back from, your state, my state, whoever state. But we can get this out there and start asking these questions and see what kind of responses we get from these people.
Oh, I'm sure they're listening in tonight and they'll be jumping tomorrow.
Say that again?
I said, I'm sure they're listening in on us tonight and they'll be jumping Monday morning going, oh my God.
I'm going to be a good surprise.
Of course, I don't believe their God is the creator that I know. Because doesn't that D-Evil guy think he's God?
Yeah.
And then most people don't know it, but the IRS, the U.S. Treasury, and the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Bureau fall under a corporate name, and the corporate name is B-A-A-L. In your Bible, you can pronounce that as Baal or Baal. But is that why I got to get myself bailed out?
Yeah, it is all crazy with these words.
May I?
Sure.
May I?
Go ahead.
Keep going back to looking at this, and you said to ask them for their license for realtor and property owner and all this stuff.
Right.
Supreme Court ruled that states cannot license. So how are they able to do any of that? Because if they're not licensed.
No, but see, they're using that to keep you under administrative rules. Because they say, I have a license, you don't. I'm your guy. Okay. We already know what it says. We already know what it states. But they're going to use it. So the reason why the point of asking these other questions are to see what they put in writing. Because once you've got it in writing, and who knows, they might commit fraud in their own statement.
The other one for the answer on that one is they think that they are sovereign, which they are not. The Supreme Court has held that up not once, not twice, but 3 different times.
I have those court cases. In the original court was 1789. That no judge is immune.
Okay.
And I have that original court case of 1789.
And how they're getting you is because when you signed the paperwork and you did not have time to review it, did they give you 72 hours to review that and take that to somebody you might know that's a counselor?
No. They just told me to sign it. What was it? They told me, I told them I didn't want to sign it, and they turned around and just told me, well, she's going to get the divorce either way, so you might as well go ahead and sign it.
Yeah, but see, you got to deal with that one.
That's done under coercion, duress, and threat.
I agree to anything, so. So, anyhow, I'm looking at the time. I only call it an evening tonight. And do you have anything you would like to throw out here, guy?
No, I'm pretty much good.
Okay. So anybody else would like to say something before we call it a night?
Come on, don't be shy.
Okay. Well, with that, we'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I'll start getting these things uploaded here on all the YouTube channels. Right now, I'm putting out the other point because somehow they keep knocking off the structure I have with the British government and the treaties on it. They keep knocking it off on YouTube. So, but anyhow, with that, we'd like to thank everybody, thank the Creator, and without Mother Earth and without Father, we don't have life. And without the Creator, we have no future.
All right. Thank you very much for listening to Disclaimers by Ed Johnston. It is Saturday, August 8th, 2020. Have a